And now, we will move to the next session about powering the project economy, and it's our great pleasure to introduce Mr. Tony Appleby. Mr. Tony Appleby is the chairman of the Project Management Institute and a fellow of the Institute of Directors in the United Kingdom and the National Association of Corporate Directors in the United States. He has been involved with strategy execution management across 6 continents, specializing in organizational maturity and transformation, and serves on the boards of 2 Silicon Valley companies. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome to the stage Mr. Tony Appleby.
So I'm thrilled, absolutely honored to be here with you. Special acknowledgement to Mr. Abdul Karim Al-Ghamdi from Saudi Aramco and Mr. Badr Bashid, the president of the KSA chapter. As was mentioned, I'm chairman of the board of directors of the Project Management Institute, and I hail from California. But this is not my first time in the kingdom. Actually, my first time in the kingdom was in the late 1980s. My background is in civil engineering with specialty in hydrology, and I was told, to come and listen at the back of a room to an agricultural irrigation conference that was happening in Jeddah at the time. And when I returned 10 years later, by and large, almost all of the objectives that the kingdom had set out to achieve had been accomplished. I say this because in comparison, in California, where I hail from, we are still struggling 30 plus years later to achieve what the kingdom did inside of 10 years. Now, that is not the first time nor the last time I was in the kingdom. I worked with the YESR e-government program about 12, 15 years ago to help them establish some project management practices, specifically to audit what they had available and to make recommendations. Inside of 2 years, all of those recommendations had been made and exceeded. I frequently point to the YESR government program as an exemplar to my clients and to other organizations with whom I speak. So I am absolutely delighted, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart. I am honored to be here with you all today. So I'm going to speak a little bit about powering the project economy. What does that mean? That's going to compose itself of a few elements. I'm going to talk a little bit about what PMI is and what it may mean to the people in this room and to the people online. I'm going to talk a little bit about the future of project management with an extra bent towards construction, major capital investments. So if we can start with a little video introduction to set the stage.
When I look ahead of the future, I think that the biggest challenge will be understand really the work of artificial intelligence and where is the place for project managers and people working in projects.
The changes of project management processes, the changes of the way project managers work will definitely be more reliant on technology.
And that's going to increase the importance of how people work together and collaborate. It's going to grow an increasingly important component of personal skills, collaboration skills, and leadership skills that go above and beyond the traditional technical skills of project management.
But we need to prepare the machines to deliver our projects better, so we're not doing the repetitive tasks ourselves. So we're not reactive to the market, we create the next market of project management.
The future of project management is, I would say, disrupted. Fast delivery, compressed cycles, as well as fast failure, if that is the case.
Leading business with agility. Any future development should reflect that.
I think in future of project management, it will be more agile and more business related.
Because these days we talk about value. In order to understand the value of that project, you need to understand the business. You got to have the technical management skills, the leadership skills, but also understand the business.
In a global environment, it's going to be more diverse cultures coming into the workplace. Therefore, a different take on skills, different time zones, totally different business practices. So you need to plan for those challenges.
We need to take care of our environment, to take care of our planet, to go for sustainable projects that take care of the human being.
When we talk about DevOps and we talk about Agile, I'm asked, do those kind of methodologies strip away the need for a project manager? I think absolutely not. I think we are in need of even more project managers in the future. We are getting more and more project-oriented in our businesses, in our societies.
Artificial intelligence will take some of the jobs, but I think they cannot be a leader. So as a project manager, if you are a good leader, you are going to continue to perform your profession.
So as project managers, we have to get better at leading teams and leading people, working with people, and find ways to include automation in what we do while still maintaining our human aspect, our humanity.
It's difficult to see something clear in the future, but we should stay prepared to face with flexibility new challenges, new situations. Be prepared to change into something completely different.
So there's a few things to tease apart in there, and I trust it comes as no surprise to any of you. You know, the world is changing. Organizations are adapting to that change. Teams and individuals are learning to pivot in response to new challenges and to new environments. And I'm thrilled that the Project Management Institute has quite a few people around the world, and we form a familial society where we interact with one another, we learn from one another, and we take a look at what's on the horizon so that we can grasp what we need to know for tomorrow's work. And integral to that are our local chapters. And the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia chapter is an eminent one in the Middle East, indeed amongst the world. It's got terrific leadership, huge amount of volunteers, significant amount of activity. So for those of you who are not familiar with the Project Management Institute, and specifically the KSA chapter, I encourage you to look into it as a resource for additional information regarding what I'm going to be speaking about later on in this program. So earlier this year, as we've done the past several years, the Project Management Institute listed its most influential projects. And we have quite a few in the Middle East region, 3, I believe, in Saudi Arabia. I'm going to show you 2 of them here, and I'm putting on my eyeglasses because I want to get this right. The Riyad Metro on the left, 6-kilometer lines, 176 kilometers of rail, over 1,000 buses covering well over 1,000 kilometers and miles. It is the world's largest public transport project. And on the right, the King Solomon Energy Park, otherwise known as SPARC. It's a huge mega project that entails factories, workshops, railroad, port, residential, commercial, and educational facilities, all as part of a global engineering, energy, and technology hub with a heavy focus on sustainability. Its first phase is about 50 kilometers square, and it has achieved its LEED Silver certification. My spouse is an architect. My spouse was over the moon learning about this. The site's going to be operated and anchored by Saudi Aramco in partnership with the Saudi Authority for Industrial Cities and Technology Zones. So again, emphasizing what the kingdom is doing ahead of many of its peers in the world. So I'm going to mention 2 reports that the project management puts out on an annual basis. One is known as the Pulse of the Profession, and I'll talk to that in a little bit. The other one is our annual Megatrends report. Now, the Project Management Institute expends millions of dollars each year in research. And that research is both native, surveys, interviews with our Global Executive Council members, including Saudi Aramco, looking through databases and looking at experts around the world to understand what is transpiring in the world, and how it is evolving, and where projects fall in line with that. Now, specific to our last year, or this past year's report, again, I'm going to read my notes because this is always changing, but this current report talks to 5 specific megatrends. Now, the pandemic health crisis, I think we're all kind of familiar with that, maybe a little tired of it, but it has transformed the pace and scale of digitization and increased it such that it has become more normative than it ever was before. And digitization is driven by project management practitioners, so it's something that has a potential positive effect. It's got lots of negative effects, I won't deny that. Now, the second is the climate crisis. So that's exacerbating inequalities around the world, but it's also a call for action in a number of different ways that lead to innovation, and most innovation projects are led by project management practitioners. Third, civil inequality movements. Now, these are opening up opportunities in social goods sectors. Fourth, shifting global dynamics, things such as nationalism, but a whole bunch of other things as well. This requires significant investments in infrastructure. So there's good news for those in the construction industry, and as well as the education sectors. We need to be present as project management practitioners in these markets. And has been mentioned already, artificial intelligence. Now, artificial intelligence is absolutely changing the nature of project management work, but it is also evolving. And the reason why I'm having these notes is because this upcoming year's megatrends is changing artificial intelligence as a megatrend to digital disruption. So everything that has been mentioned previously about virtual reality and augmented reality, machine learning, cloud computing, big data, good golly gosh, distributed ledgers, blockchain technologies, all that sort of thing are immediately on the horizon, and things of which we need to be aware of as project management practitioners so that we can gain an understanding and appreciation of how it's affecting our industry or affecting our sector so that we can be prepared to leverage it. And I'm going to talk a lot more about artificial intelligence right now because I get asked all the time, Tony, is artificial intelligence going to take away the need for project managers? Absolutely not. And I'll tell you exactly why. Because while artificial intelligence will most definitively remove some of the work efforts that we have historically had to do ourselves, things such as schedule management and risk identification, and I know that artificial intelligence, I've seen it firsthand. I can take out my cell phone and say, I've got this new add to my scope, and it will run its algorithms and tell me that it's going to take 3 additional people, 2 additional weeks during this particular time period. It's going to have this impact on budget. And here are the 3 likely most significant risks to your project. Do you accept those? And I say yes, and I click my little button. So that's taken care of. But what isn't going to be accomplished by artificial intelligence or machine learning or big data or cloud computing or any of the other items is the ability to lead projects. Because it takes an individual to decipher, as Dr. Mulva put it, the other aspects of process and business models and leading other people so that they can be effective in meeting an organization's goals and objectives in meaningful ways. So it's going to transform project management, but it's going to continue to evolve. It's not just AI. How is blockchain technology going to influence? So our Megatrends report is available for free to all practitioners, free to anybody. It's available at pmi.org. Just do a search for Megatrends, and up comes the information. All right, so I frequently get asked, what is the new normal? And my response is, I'm afraid to report there is no new normal. Our world is going to continue to shift, and a lot of people like stability. I get that, and they want to have some semblance of what the world was like before, understanding that it's changing, but hopefully stabilizing. It will never stabilize. There's going to be continued churn, continued new information. Project managers are going to have to learn how to decipher all of that, and the Project Management Institute is here to help. There we go. All right, so our Pulse of the Profession is the other report that I mentioned. The Pulse of the Profession we've been doing for the better part of 20 years, and year over year it always provides us with new insights and new information. I recommend you go on to pmi.org and download it at your convenience. It's got a lot more information than I'm going to delve into today, but I'm going to touch on just a couple of different items. Digital transformation, business strategy, and organizational adaptability are the biggest changes that we've seen in organizations and how they're approaching how to survive in the marketplace. So that business models aspect, you as project management practitioners and leaders need to be aware of what your own individual organizations are doing in this sector. And it may be some of those, it may not be, but the point is, if you're not aware of what is driving your organization's business changes, you're not going to be in a position to be as effectual as a project leader. We've got a lag, sorry. So there is a new mechanism on the horizon for which we are asked to be leaders in the project economy. The project economy is a term that the Project Management Institute has indicated that the world of work is changing in such a way that we're seeing more efforts within organizations and across organizations organized as projects. Now, we here in the room and those online may be quite used to that. There's a whole bunch of other people within your organizations who are more accustomed, likely, to operate in silos or in operational units and not think about the matrix environment that helps support projects being successful and delivering that value that organizations need. Now, I know this is a bit of an eye chart, but what the Pulse of the Profession research this year did for the first time is indicate a potential trend where we are seeing project practitioners within organizations making projects more successful than they have in the past. And some of the items that we see, the top 3 items we want to see going up, and the bottom 3 items we want to see going down. So we're meeting our business goals in intents. We're wasting fewer dollars. Sorry about that. And these are good signs, but there are implications associated with some of that. What organizations specifically are doing well and which organizations are not, and why? And so the Pulse of the Profession research teases apart some elements of that, and we do deep dives onto specific aspects that many of you will probably find quite instructional. So we term leaders those organizations that are achieving 80% or more of their stated goals and objectives for their project delivery efforts as gymnastic. It's a nifty little term. We're seeing it used more and more amongst senior executive leadership teams to indicate that they're able to pivot, in midair and execute a landing on what they're trying to do. Now, our traditional doesn't mean that those are those organizations that are limited to performing projects in the traditional waterfall mechanism. It just means that they're not gymnastic and they are not achieving the goals and objectives that their gymnastic counterparts are. And some of the things that gymnastic organizations are doing more than traditional people are shown here on the screen. They are investing in their people and they're investing in their mechanisms so that they can be successful in the field as the world of work continues to change. And they're prioritizing skills amongst their project management practitioners, specifically the 4 shown here on the screen. Now, artificial intelligence is not going to supplant project management leaders being able to evoke collaborative leadership in order to lead with adaptability and with an innovative mindset and with empathy. These are things that the Project Management Institute is calling power skills. Power skills. We used to call them soft skills, I think. Most people are familiar with the term soft skills. Soft skills implies that it's mushy and we really don't value it as much as something that's hard and critical, something tangible. So we're calling it power skills for a reason, because these are the items that project management practitioners are really going to need to learn and to be really, really good at in order to be the most effectual leaders in their organizations with their project management delivery efforts. So the Project Management Institute offers a whole host of offerings for those of you who are not familiar, and even those of you who may be familiar with the Project Management Institute may not be familiar with some of them. This is not an exhaustive list by any stretch of the imagination for which the project management offers, but it does indicate a few things. So, collaborative leadership, which was on one of the earlier slides, entails the ability to bring together people to, perform design thinking, activities, how to decompose challenging problems into actions that are going to have positive results. So complex problem solving, we offer wicked problem solving. It's a design thinking certification that was put together collaboratively with Tom Wujek, who's one of the preeminent leaders in the field. And I'm not going to go through all of these in the interest of time, but getting things done, being able to transform, and being agile. Being agile doesn't just mean employing agile methodologies. Traditional methodologies are absolutely necessary, especially in construction projects, and infrastructure projects. But employing agile mindsets, and during the traditional process, where appropriate, plugging in little bits of agile project management practices so that you're having a hybrid approach is proving to be exceptionally beneficial for most organizations. And we're seeing the largest number of organizations who are gymnastic employing that approach. Here's some more of the certifications. Again, it's not exhaustive by any stretch, but as Dr. Mulva was indicating, down in purple on the far right, some of the built environment offerings. Actually, I think I have a slide specific to the built environment offerings, which I'll get to in just a second. So let me pivot in the last 10 minutes that I've got on the stage here and talk about some technology and construction, the infrastructure challenges that may exist. So there's a whole bunch of numbers up here. So technology and digitalization, as you can read on the slide, and as I'm reading myself, is impacting the construction sector. I think everybody in the room is probably keenly aware of that. But specifically how it's impacting and what we collectively can do to either leverage it or to minimize its impacts is why we're here, why everybody's here at this conference. But I'm underscoring these numbers and these findings so that you can focus on, as you're listening to other lecturers and presenters during the course of the next day and a half, to focus on elements that you think you can bring back to your organizations that are going to help you and them be successful. Now, there's a few obvious ones here. As Dr. Mulva indicated earlier, we've got 7 modules of a new construction in the built environment professional certification available. And I'm going to underscore these right here. So effective communication, scope and order management, and interface management are on the table right now, and performance management, execution planning, contract and risk management, and technology and innovation are going to be released within the next several months. So there's several micro certifications and a final CAP exam for those who want to bring it through all the way. So I want to talk a little bit about Pmi and Saudi Aramco in my last couple of minutes here. I'm thrilled that Saudi Aramco has been a longstanding member of our Global Executive Council. The Global Executive Council is 100 of the most highly gymnastic organizations in the world. It's an impactful, collaborative partner that allows us to gain distinct insights into what is happening, at the forefront of project management. So things like capital modeling, that sort of thing that was mentioned earlier. We value that because we can help our partners and practitioners across the world gain learnings from that sort of thing. So we've got case studies that have been built collaboratively with Saudi Aramco as part of their partnership with us at the Global Executive Council. And these are available again on pmi.org for download. And if you find value in them, I'm sure you will. I'm sure you'll find value in them. So I'm just going to close out here with a couple of little parting thoughts. So the reason why the project management exists, it's been around for well over 50 years, is to ensure that we are successful as a profession. And collaboratively, we build our body of knowledge. And that body of knowledge is not static by any stretch of the imagination. When we first started building the project management body of knowledge in the early 1990s, it was considered a baseline. And that was the first edition, and we are now on our 7th edition. And over the first 5 iterations, we built additional information into it as we learned. Agile methodologies finally came along and have been baked into it. But with our most recent edition, we've moved away a little bit from processes. And this is how you do scope management. These are some of the best practices or available considerations associated with risk management or integration management. Our 7th edition is principles-based. It's morphing and it's evolving our body of knowledge to how we do work as opposed to the processes. It's not saying the processes go away. That's all still there. It's important that we retain that. But it's also important that we look to the future. And if we look to the future together, we can make good things happen and we can empower people to make ideas a reality in our organizations and in our communities and across the world. Thank you very much.